Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC. Today we are on the streets of Baku. Yes, it's that dreaded time of year where we've got 3 street circuits in a row starting here in Azerbaijan. This is round 6, I think. I'm hoping it's round 5, of the GPVWC Formula Sprint 1 Championship. And there's the circuit today, looking ever so much like a key, like an old-fashioned door key. As it goes down the almost highway-like front straight, and then into the keyhole, the right angles, and then around the back of the circuit with the castle section, the super duper tight turn 8, and then out towards the finish line. We're just entering qualifying, and it will be 15 minutes of qualifying that will determine the grid here. I'm your commentator, Caitlin Penny, and I'm being joined, of course, by Szymon Frelik as the broadcast director. No Ross McIntyre and no second commentator today. Ross has been obliged to go and do something last minute, so unfortunately he won't be joining me, at least not for now. There is still a possibility he might drop in later, but I would not bank on that, I'm afraid. Anyway, we still have the session ahead of us, so let me go get up the live timing and see what we're looking for. This series so far has been a story of 2 teams, Nocturne and HGP. Nocturne currently edging out HGP in the championship, but their 4 drivers, the 2 drivers from each team, are locking out the front 4 positions in the championship, and quite considerably so, with just 1 point between Owen Magorgi, who you're on board with now, and Moritz Kropp for the lead of the championship. Magorgi has 2 wins to his name, Kropp has 1, and then following them, Tom Stevens, Frank Hamming, then the 2 TCS off cars of Jake Dennehan and Darius Andre, but Darius actually was quickest in the practice session we had just now, so watch out for him today. Murray Watson, Mike Quint, Jason Muscat, and Alexander Ragosa make out the rest of the top 10 in the championship standings. If you saw the last round of Formula Sprint 1 and are wondering what happened in the end, just as a quick recap, we had some server issues. The server crashed several times, and there was discussion as to when the results should be taken from, how many points should actually be given, if at all. In the end, it was decided that the results from race 1 would be taken from just before the first lag and server disconnection actually happened, meaning I think it was around lap 13 or something that the results were taken from, and 4 points were awarded. So 4 points, meaning that Darius Andre has officially won his first Formula Sprint 1 race. And it's just a shame that it had to be in those circumstances, but to be honest, he was doing a very good job up until that point and deserved at least some recognition in terms of points in the championship for what he did. If you're wondering about the rest of the podium as well, Jake Dennehan was second and Owen McGorgy was third, and there were no kind of penalties or protests or anything like that. So let's put that round behind us and move on, because I'm afraid Portimao was a very disappointing way to go racing. Here we are at Baku. McGorgy completing the first flying lap. 1:48.337 is the time, which is pretty quick. That's about what we were expecting, and it's actually quicker than the top hot lap on the timing screen previously. So McGorgy there, setting a benchmark, and one that actually could be a contender for pole position outright, despite the fact it was set so early in the session. There are drivers going quicker in the second and third sectors though. Kropp was the fastest in the third sector on his first lap. Dennehan was the fastest in the second. Is Faber, he looks like he's coming into the pits potentially because he's all the way over to the left. So Faber deciding to go for it once again. And you can afford to enter the pits as quickly as that, because if you don't go all the way through the pits, you're not going to get a pit speeding penalty. Vincent Gutt now completes his first flying lap, and he goes P19. So not a great opening lap. It's actually last of the drivers who have set laps so far. And it was about 12 seconds off, so that wouldn't have been a competitive run there from Vincent Gutt. Scott Mitchell, in fact, both of the Mitchells are racing here. Luke and Scott, and this must be Luke's last race in Super FS1 this year, unless he's going to give up on his Formula Sprint 2 championship attack, because last time I checked, you could only do 3 rounds of a higher league. Oh, it's 4 rounds according to Szymon. Thank you very much, Szymon. So he does have 1 more round to use if he wants to. But yeah, if he does any more than 4 rounds at a higher level than Formula Sprint 2, then he won't be able to continue his championship challenge. Here's Frank Hamming now, currently P6, about to go even faster because he's faster than the lead in the second sector, and his time puts him third. So Frank goes up to P3, just 0.3 of a second off the leaders. It's quite a long track here, actually. Baku. Oh, as Mike Quint's had a shunt there, losing both his front and rear wings. Easy to do at a circuit like this. It is pretty tight around here. Remco de Joux coming across the line. I had to apologise to Remco the other day. Managed to run into the back of him during one of the FS2 races. Luckily, he was very nice about it, actually. He accepted my apology and didn't even report me, which, to be honest, is very, very generous. I mean, I totally would have understood if he had. Got there improving his time. That's his first real flying lap there. 150.394 puts him 16th. And he continues on his way. Maybe starting another flying lap here. You can do multiple laps in a row, but only if you have the car set up to be able to do so. But yeah, relatively long circuit here. 1:48.3 is the fastest time so far. In Formula Sprint 2, it was an achievement if you could do it under 2 minutes. putting it almost on terms with circuits like Spa. Of course, Spa is only about 15 or so seconds longer, but this is easily the longest street circuit on the calendar nowadays. And that means you don't really get that many opportunities in qualifying. You don't really get that many laps to do. And if you pit, then you lose a lot of track or timed running. Jakub Kalbarczyk, P23, and that's because he has not yet set a flying lap. He has now P8, not bad at all from Jakub Kalbarczyk. Still some drivers yet to set laps. Robert Porn here is a name that I don't recognize. This is his debut at this level, and maybe a GPVWC debut overall, according to Szymon Frelik, so thank you for that, Szymon. P13 there for Robert Porn, who almost goes into the wall, and I think kept it out there, so he'll be able to run it back to the pits, and yes, indeed, he managed to keep it out of the wall in the end. Adrian Faber also about to place his first timed lap, and he goes P19. Adrian for PZZW Racing, and here at De Vries now for Friesland. Lots of very varied liveries and teams out there today. It's a big grid. 30 cars is the maximum, and we have 29 out there on track right now. And the car that's missing, I was expecting actually, was Menno Klunt, but it's not. Klunt is out there on track right now. Menno messaged me a little while ago to say that he wasn't sure if he was going to be racing or not because he is a little under the weather today. But he is out on track right now, currently running P15, as Owen McGorgy here has been setting the purple times once again. And actually, after this, we'll have to switch straight over to Jake Dennehan, because Dennehan's on an even quicker one. Wow, Dennehan's first sector was 4/10 faster than McGorgy's. So even though McGorgy is about to improve here, I believe that Jake Dennehan is about to improve even more. Let's watch Owen crosses the line, and the lap time is a 1:48.040. That's incredibly quick, actually. That's over half a second out in front. Moritz Kropp is about to improve as well. Does he get within that half a second? Yes, he does, actually. He gets 4/10 off. And here's Tom Stevens now, Moritz's Nocturne teammate. And Tom improves as well, less than 3/10 of a second off. But here's the lap I was intrigued by. He's just down. He's lost about a tenth in the second sector, but this could still be quick. P3, so loses quite a lot in the third sector, indicating maybe a difference of straight line speed there. And yeah, according to Szymon, he's 8 kilometers an hour slower than Owen McGorgy down the straight. So McGorgy absolutely flying in a straight line. Alex Lahou here, faster than the leaders in the first sector. The driver who has been doing Formula Sprint 2, and he comes into the pits now. Maciej Heiler was the fastest of all in the third sector, and he is on an in-lap now after going P6. Quite a spread out order, but you're used to seeing that at circuits like this. This is a very long circuit, so realistically the gaps are smaller than that makes them look. At some other circuits, the same kind of percentage gap would be only about maybe 75%, 50% of this. Mike Quint now goes P9, so improves his own time. Not quite within a second of the leaders, but he's close. Here's Darius Andre. Fastest of all in practice. The TCS off racing cars are 5th and 6th in the championship. They're very evenly matched drivers. Jake Dennehan and Darius Andre fought each other for the FS2 championship last year when it was Formula Challenge, and are now fighting each other for honours in the FS1 championship, team honours, in a team that's very likely to move up to Super League Lights at the end of, or Super Lights at the end of this season. Goes up to P2, does Darius Andre. And 0.2 of a second off the leaders. Right, we're now, or the leader, we are now into the real crunch time of this session, where the drivers are going to be coming out of the pits for the last time after setting their cars up for one final flying run. Remco de Gier aiming for that crucial P15 buffer. Not that it matters that much at Baku, because there's so much slipstreaming that goes on here. And unfortunately, quite a few accidents are likely to happen today as well. I mean, it does matter where you qualify, but not quite as much as at some other circuits. Crosses line P17. Okie dokie. Jake Dennehan, meanwhile, is in the pits and setting his car up for one final flying run, as is Maciej Heiler. Some of the other front runners will be doing a similar thing right now. Through the S's goes Jason. Jason Muscat, racing for Multiforce GP. He's had an up and down season so far. Haven't exactly seen the Jason Muscat that I'm used to from him just yet. He's had one top 5 finish. And he comes into the pits. But P9 will be a great place to start from. Robert Pone and Scott Mitchell for Valley Esports. The most successful qualifier of the season so far has easily been Owen McGorgy, who has got 2 pole positions so far and has qualified in the top 4 in all 4 meetings, and he's looking set potentially for another pole position, but we've still got a bit of time to go in this session and still a few drivers nipping at his heels. 2 tenths per second you absolutely can find at a circuit like this. There's a few other drivers as well who are always ones to look out for in qualifying. Tom Stevens has been in the top 5 every time and has a pole to his name. Darius Andre also has a pole to his name and is contesting for this pole today along with Tom Stevens. And some other drivers who are qualifying specialists. Amari Watson's been pretty good so far this year. In fact, both of the HGP guys have been. Tom Stevens has out-qualified Moritz Kropp every single time, despite Kropp's fantastic race pace. Here is Luke Mitchell, as Lahu goes 7th. Mitchell only 16th. Great lap there from Alex Lahu. Moritz Kropp now doesn't quite have the legs on his teammate in qualifying so far this year, but that's a promising first sector. It's faster than what, sorry, no, it's not quite faster than what Stevens has managed, because Stevens is actually on another flying lap right now, and he's gone even quicker than what you're seeing from Moritz Kropp. And Kropp lost a bit of time there. I think Stevens' lap is going to be a little more competitive. Kropp could still improve, but he's only going to be maybe 4th place. Stevens in the 2nd sector, actually not quite as quick as Kropp, so they are going to be relatively evenly matched here. The 2 nocturnes down towards the line. Moritz goes 2nd. Good lap from Moritz. And here comes Tom Stevens. And I think this is going to be just about quicker. The checkered flag is awaiting him. And it's only P4, so Stevens does not jump ahead of his teammate. It's very close there, even though they are separated by Darius Andre. It's just that those 3 cars are so evenly matched there. Owen McGorgy does not need to improve, not need to do anything else, and that's okay, because he's not. He's back in the pits now. It looks as if he's got pole position. Here's Adrian Faber coming to the line. Jason Muscat is the only other driver out there in the top 10 who's still on a lap. Unless Andre just about got onto a flying lap, but I'm not sure that he did. Oh, he did, but it hasn't been a great one so far. Frank Hamming also slightly improving. In fact, Hamming here could still throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Maybe get himself into the top 5 if his 2nd and 3rd sectors are brilliant. Alexander Ragosa, P24 to P21. Here is Frank Hamming, faster than the leader in the 1st sector, but it's the... Oh, and Andre 2nd in the 2nd sector, sorry. Let's take a look quickly at Andre. Now, Kropp appears to have just about got across the line in time to start another flying lap, so Kropp is actually out there, attempting to improve once again, but he's down in the 1st sector by quite a long way. Hamming coming to the line This is looking good from Frank Hamming. Does it get him into the top 5? Here's the timing beam. And he stays 6, so Frank does not improve. Andre did improve to second there. Well, he was already second. He improved slightly and gets within 1/10 of a second of Owen McGorgy, and that is extremely close around a circuit this long. But that's your lot there. That's qualifying. Owen McGorgy has pole position only just from Darius Andre, Moritz Kropp, Tom Stevens, Jake Dennehan. There you see the order. Frank Hamming is P6, then Alex Laho, Mike Quint, Jason Muscat, and Maciej Heiler. Good qualifying from Maciej. I think that's his best at this level. P11 will be Amari Watson. And that's as many cars as you can fit within a second there. Jakub Karbacik, P12, then Menno Klont, Luke Mitchell, Damien Kardash, Robert Pan, Scott Mitchell, Craig Patterson, Adrian Faber, and Remco de Joux are the top 20. The top 15 will score points in the race. Alexander Ragosa, P21, then Philip Koenig, Martin Buchan, Mike Bell, Perseus Miram, Gerrit de Vries, Casper Michalach, and James Lambert there. Completing the grid. Still not sure which car is the one that's missing. I'll try to get that back to you, I guess. But whatever the case, that is the grid order. I think it's the other Build Sim car. So Build Sim only showing up with Perseus Miram today, who qualified 26th. Okie, well that's qualifying over now. And we're going to go for a brief break, considering I'm on my own today. But we will be back in time for the start of race 1. So make sure you don't go anywhere, and we will see you then. Hello everyone, welcome back to Baku. We are very nearly ready to start the first of two races today. Qualifying was quite close considering the length of the circuit, and that means that we should get some pretty close racing today. Now, one thing to look out for is that slipstreaming is absolutely prevalent here, and could really throw a spanner in the works, muddle things up, especially at the end of the first lap, and then again at the end of the third lap when DRS is available for the very first time. There's the calendar. You see we're at Baku today, and then of course in 2 weeks' time at Monaco, so you get two super tight street circuits in a row. Montreal, Circuit Villeneuve is kind of also a street circuit. I mean, it's not really streets, so I wouldn't call it one. But what it is a shut down public road. You still get all of the bumpiness and the unpredictability that comes with a street circuit. And then, of course, we head back to the purpose-built racing circuits with the British Grand Prix in June. But yes, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix support race today. The actual Azerbaijan Grand Prix of GPVWC will be taking place next week with the Super League cars. Next week to the day, in fact. And make sure you don't miss that one because that is going to be very, very exciting. GPVWC at Baku always is. Another thing to note is that in the past, in FS1, when it's been called Super League, we've had a lot of brake failures here, especially in race 1, because people have been pushing their brakes to the limit and not really allowing for how much brake fade they're going to get. So hopefully this year, they keep that in mind and look after the cars a little, or at least alter their setups. I mean, it's a bit late to alter their setups now. They'll all be in park thermic conditions, but Testing, testing. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back. Wow. Sorry about that. I have literally no idea what happened. I wasn't muted, nothing like that. It just was not working. That was so strange. I didn't even realize until you messaged me, Szymon. Okay, my apologies. You can hear me now, right? Okie dokie. Right, away we go on the formation lap after all of that. And we are now preparing for the start of the first of 2 races here today. 25 laps of racing coming up. And you'll be able to hear me through all of it. Here comes the starting order now. And we'll run you through how they all start. Owen McGorgy will be going off pole position for the 3rd time this season. Championship leader by 1 point. Then it's Darius Andre, Moritz Kropp and Tom Stevens. So an all-nocturne row 2. Jake Dennehan and Frank Hamming will be 5th and 6th. Then it's Alex Lahou and Mike Quint, the 2 Alpha Delta racing cars. Jason Muscat there, P9, followed by Maciej Heiler and Amari Watson and Jakub Karbacek. All of these drivers starting where they qualified, no penalties going into today, and that's always what we like to see. Manu Plant, Luke Mitchell, Damien Kardash and Robert Pan. Luke Mitchell there, the FS2 championship leader. Didn't win any of the FS2 races the other day, but still did a pretty good job. Scott Mitchell there, P17, followed by Craig Patterson, Adrian Faber and Remco de Gea. Alexander Agosa, Philip Koenig, Martin Buchan and Vincent Gert. We're getting into the drivers who are going to need a little bit of luck and a little bit of patience to score points. It's Mike Bell, Perseus Miram, Gerrit de Vries and Casper Michalak. I should correct something I said earlier, that both build sim cars are on the grid, as you saw. James Lambert will round out the grid in 29th place, but he's actually starting from the pit lane here, as is Gerrit de Vries. So Lambert and de Vries not with the rest of the pack. And the team that only has 1 car appears to be PZW. Thank you, Szymon, for pointing that out in the warm-up session. You're absolutely right. And yeah, both of the build sim cars are going off the grid today, but 22nd and 26th, so not a great qualifying for them. So the grid now go McGorgy and Andre, and if that graphic is right, then everyone down to 22nd place will be starting on the softs. Wow. So every single driver there pretty much on the same train of thought, I guess. The same mind track, thinking that here you want the grip to be able to get away well. Also, the tyres should be able to last quite a long time here as well, because 90-degree corners don't really wear your tyres as much as, you know, the sweepers of some other circuits might. We do have sweepers here, but they're not that brutal. I mean, the final corner you can do flat out, despite the fact it's one of the sharpest fast corners on the track. Here's Casper Michalak in the Smile Power racing car with that little button there smiling back at him. Putting his car into position, and he is the last car on the grid because we have 2 in the pit lane, and when the 5 lights go out we'll be underway for 25 laps of racing, as we are. So away we go at the start of the race. McGorgy already defending from Darius Andre, who smokes his way through into the lead of the race. Darius Andre leads, then it's Owen McGorgy, Moritz Kropp and Tom Stevens. McGorgy there going over to defend from the 2 nocturnes behind him. Dennehan almost forced out and into the wall, but he is okay, and they continue on. Looks like, I thought I saw a front wing go flying, but I think they're all okay actually. Yeah, it may have just been the smoke that I was mistaking. So Andre has got the lead, the driver who was fastest in practice, and very nearly fastest in qualifying. Hamming under attack from Dennehan, has to leave the door wide open, because if he turned in, they'd have made contact down towards turns 5 and 6. Now prepare yourselves, because in a few corners time we will be at the tightest section of the circuit for the first time, the castle section, and this is the closest they will all be while heading into the castle section all day. So this is dangerous. Andre is going to make it through okay. There he goes. and the rest of the field aim to follow him through. Hopefully no one is dumb enough to go too wide down into that section. It is not wide enough for 2 cars to go through at speed, and it looks clean, so it looks as if all 29 cars still have their wings attached, heading out of the castle section for the first time. Andre, McGorgy, Krop, Stevens, now we get the slipstream. The slipstream will be coming into effect when you reach the exit of these sweepers now, and we may see some moves down the straight. We know that McGorgy is super quick in a straight line because he was one of the fastest cars in sector 3. Sorry, what was that? Mockton apparently have an even quicker setup in a straight line, so watch Krop and Stevens as they slipstream their way towards the second place car. Jake Dennehan as well on the back of Frank Hamming into turn 1, and Dennehan makes a move. Bit too late, has to back out of it. A few more changes further back. Maciej Heiler passes Jason Muscat. No surprise there, actually. He was also one of the quickest drivers in the third sector in qualifying. Brief yellow flag. Maybe have had our first incident of the race. Kasper Michalak's in the pits, although he still appears to have his has a drive-through, so that will be for a jump start potentially. James Lambert as well has just lost his front wing, and that's what the yellow flag was for. He was trying to pass Jarrett de Vries and got it all crossed up down into turn 1 and is bounced off the barriers. The race continues. Andre and McGorgy separated by really not that much still. And now is the point where McGorgy has got to keep himself within a second of Andre because of that crucial DRS gap, which is going to come into play from the next lap onwards. There was a car making a move in the background there. Scott Mitchell, oh my goodness, the 2 Mitchells are right together actually, and I believe they were the 2 cars you saw side by side. They've made it through okay, but yeah, Luke is running 16th and Scott in 17th place. And the top driver on the hard compound tyre is Martin Buchan, running in 22nd place, who's made up a place or 2 in the early stages of the race. He may actually be the only driver on the hard tyre. Yeah, he is. So literally everyone just avoiding the hard tyres like the plague at this point in the race. That is absolutely fascinating. Moritz Krop now slipstreaming his way towards Owen McGorgy, who weaves to try to avoid giving him the toe. Now Krop's easily going to be ahead by the time they reach turn 1, but this straight's so long that McGorgy can't ever go back at him. Not this time. Yeah, that's sometimes the danger in a straight. If you slipstream past someone too early, sometimes they can get you right back again. Luke Mitchell now up into P15 ahead of Robert Bahn down into turn 1. Makes it stick. And Moritz Krop gained about 0.3 of a second on Darius Andre in the last couple of sectors of that lap. And no surprise really with a slipstream like that one, as Pohn tries to get himself back into the top 15. A crucial position, bit of a twitch though. Slides the car out. And there's Craig Patterson, who's been outperformed by his teammates at every single race so far this season, but don't get it twisted, Craig is still a pretty good racer. Won at Silverstone last year in race 2. And his teammate Owen McGorgy just happens to be extremely quick. He is what you would call an alien in sim racing terms. Andre has now got over a second ahead of Krop here. Andre very quick through the castle section this time. And Moritz struggling to stick with him a little. Moritz will get closer to him on the straight, but probably not close enough to get into the DRS range next time they go through a DRS zone. There is only one DRS zone on this circuit. 2, sorry, there is a second. It's out of turn 2 and towards turn 3, but I mean, that's a much shorter DRS zone. Still an opportunity though. Had a brief yellow, looks like Pohn's losing places in his first GPVWC Super Formula Sprint 1 race. Still has both his wings attached though, which is all that really matters at Baku, because at the end of the day, the people who score points are going to be the ones who keep their wings attached. He did slightly touch the wall actually. It was, oh no, just got away with it. It was a spin out of the final braking zone of the lap, as Stevens now fights with McGorgy. Let's take a look at this. There's the second DRS zone I was talking about. And he does not manage to get through. Meanwhile, Pawn's been into the pits. Changes onto the hard tyres. There's now 3 drivers out there on hard tyres. Pawn, Lambert, and Buchan. Although 2 of those have been involved in incidents, and largely out of this race for now. Really depends on how many incidents there are, actually. Now, was that Faber without a front wing? Yeah, it was. So, Adrian Faber's. No, sorry, he has got a front wing. It's just so dark I could barely see it. It's the trouble with having a carbon black front wing. Apologies if I startled anyone. Moritz Krupp now has got closer. May get DRS on Darius Andre this time around. Andre wasn't quite so dominant through the castle section as he was a lap ago, and DRS is of course enabled, has been for over a lap now. Oh, McGorky closer to Krupp though, and yeah, if Krupp doesn't get DRS, which he won't, then he may be a little vulnerable here to McGorky. The DRS train only goes back to 4th place actually. They've broken away from Denahan, and that's a little surprising because you do get quite a lot of slipstreaming at this course. And Krupp has got very close to Andre. Krupp's getting so close to Andre into turn 1. How did Andre lose that much time? Amari Watson now slipstreaming his way past Jason Muscat into turn 1. That's a change too. Up to P10. Yeah, Andre lost so much time coming out the final 10. Did he touch the wall potentially? I mean, I know that slipstream's powerful, but I mean that was quite intense there. TCSF apparently have one of the slowest cars in a straight line, and you could see that, couldn't you? Darius relying on getting away in the castle section. Yeah, but I mean, Moritz didn't even have DRS, did he? So if Moritz is able to get himself within DRS range one of these laps, if Andre makes a slight mistake or something, Darius is going to be a sitting duck down the straight. Of course, we're still a long way from the pit window or whatever, which can shake things up again, but I mean, Darius has a little bit of a problem here, which is that he's super quick, but not in the parts of the course that matter that much. I mean, what am I saying? He's still leading this race, still doing an excellent job. But he's a little vulnerable. Krupp says, just how I like him. Was that a slight touch of the wall from Tom Stevens? If it was, he'll be okay. It was only a little brush, which he can afford to get away with. Luke Mitchell's lost a few places there. Scott Mitchell, sorry, and that's because he's lost his rear wing. So Scott Mitchell, the damaged car. Here you see Krupp again, gaining a lot. Let's have DRS this time. Goes to the outside line. And he's going to go through on the straight, so even before turn 1, and that's what I was talking about. He was so vulnerable there to Moritz Krupp's intense straight line speed. And Moritz takes the lead ahead of Darius Andre. And Andre now coming back at him. That's the second DRS zone. Might not be able to get him here, but what about the braking zone? Oh, he does go for it. He dives up the inside and gets it back. Great move from Andre, and a very important one. Mitchell's incident, meanwhile, was in the castle section. No surprise there. We'll be seeing some more of that today. James Lambert has now become our first retirement. He had been struggling in this race, had already been into the pits once, and he appears to have come into the pits again and called it a day. Oh, Andre tagged the wall there, didn't he? I think I saw a little tag at the wall in the castle section, and importantly, that was with the rear wheel rather than side on. If you're going to hit a wall here, you want to kind of bounce off it with both wheels on one side. You don't want to hit it with either your front or your rear specifically. Oh, he demonstrates quite nicely bouncing off the wall with both wheels, but that was a little harder than he would have liked. Oh, and a big twitch from Moritz Krupp there. Big twitch. Got it all sorts of out of shape. And now Owen McGorky is going to have a run down the straight. This would have been an opportunity for Krupp to pass Andre. He may still get DRS because he was just in there. Yes, he does still have DRS. He was just in the DRS range as they pass the detection zone. They're going to go 3 wide for the lead here at Baku, and they both fly past Darius Andre, and Magorki's up the inside. They touch, the leaders touch, and they're 3 wide on the exit as well. They're 3 wide towards turn 2, and another little touch with Krop on the back of Andre. Magorki leads. There's even more DRS coming up now. Look at Tom Stevens, he's getting involved. Down towards another braking zone. It's another heavy one. Krop up the inside of Denahan, who breaks even later than Magorki. And Denahan takes the lead back on the outside. Incredible. Andre, not Denahan, getting my TCS offs muddled up. So Darius Andre takes the lead ahead of Magorki, Krop, and Stevens. And they went 3 wide twice in the space of 3 straights. And they're probably going to do it again later on this lap. Fantastic stuff here at Baku. This is the sort of beautiful race where different parts of the course come into play for different drivers, play into the benefit of different drivers. It's like an accordion all the way around the track. At some points they're in a line, at other points they're scrunched up together. Jake Denahan involved now with this fight for the lead. Does he also have a low top speed, high downforce, I presume, setup like his teammate Darius Andre? I say high downforce, it'll still be very low compared to other tracks they race at. They'll still be running barely any wings whatsoever. But obviously their opponents have gone even more aggressive. Now Magorki's probably going to take the lead here. He has so much speed over Darius Andre down the straight. He's easily got through. The question is going to be about Moritz Krop. Down into the braking zone for turn 1. So Magorki takes the lead. Darius Andre second, then Krop third. And the 2 behind him didn't swap. And yeah, Denahan lost a lot of time to the cars ahead on the straight. So the TC soft cars not going aggressive on the straight line at all. I say that, but look at this. He's got to rely on the braking zone. Goes for it. Crucial. Darius Andre takes the lead back. This reminds me of MotoGP, where the Ducatis are always super duper quick in a straight line, and then you get like the Yamahas and the Hondas that aren't and struggle in the corners. I watched a race at Losail a year ago, where coming out the last corner at the end of every lap, you had the Ducatis just flying past everyone else. And they ended up winning the race that way or something like that. I don't know, it was a long time ago. I don't watch MotoGP much, but I'm pretty sure it was the Ducatis. Here is Jakub Kalbacik on the back of Luke Mitchell, takes a look. And that's a very tight section of the course, but Mitchell leaves the door open somewhat. Now into the castle section. Luke running without his brother and has been for a while, because Scott hit the wall in that very corner a few laps ago. Mike Quint, meanwhile, is the fastest driver on track. Could he get involved in this fight for the lead? Because it's 5 for the lead, and he's in 6th place. Might be bringing Frank Hamming, Alex Lahore, and Machi Hyla with him. And Murray Watson too, if he gets closer. Onto the straight once again. And once again, you're going to see the same thing that we've been seeing lap after lap after lap, which is Darius Andre having to be a sitting duck down the straight and then move straight back past in the braking zones. Watch this, the braking zone for turn 2 is a bit too short, but the braking zone for turn 3 could put him right back into play here. Meanwhile, Machi Hyla just past Alex Lahore for P7. Here we go then, another DRS zone helps Darius to stick on the gearbox of Magorki, but Darius had a little twitch there coming out of turn 2. He's still going to be close enough, and he's still going to dive to the inside. One of these laps, someone's got to try defending into that corner. Magorki, that is, has to try defending into that corner, because if he can hold off Andre into there, Andre may well drop right back and out of contention on the next straight. Kalbacik passes Mitchell, P14. Nicely done. But yeah, I'm not sure why Magorki isn't trying to defend the inside line down into turn 3. It's Denahan's happiest hunting ground, and he's able to get through there every single time so far. Alexander Agos has been into the pits. He's had a shunt. Both his front and rear wings are missing. And every time there is a yellow flag, I'm going to briefly check up on the drivers, see if anyone... And Mikolas crashed out. So Kasper Mikolas has just had a crash down at what looks to be turn 2 in the pits and out of the race. Yeah, it was turn 2 where he's had his shunt. He's lost control on the curb on the entry and gone into the wall. And now Faber's had a shunt too somewhere. Not in the castle section, it's actually just after the castle section. Faber's lost control of his car and been collected by Remco de Joux. Continues with his front wing though. Now onto the straight once again. Once again, McGorgy is going to slipstream his way through to the lead. Now he's got to try to bring Krop with him. If Krop can pass Andre, which he does not do. But yeah, if Krop was to pass Andre any one of these laps, then again, that would put Andre out of contention. This really is like a MotoGP race at this point in time. Or the Indy 500. Another DRS zone. Now, Andre getting closer. And once again to the inside. Once again, McGorky does not cover off Darius Andre. Takes another look to the outside there. Andre goes defensive, see? I do wonder what would happen. I mean, I think McGorky's reasoning is that if he did that, he may leave himself vulnerable to Moritz or Tom. But, I mean, right now, his main challenger for this victory has to be Darius Andre. His main challenger for the lead. Oh, Lahou's had a spin. Lahou just went up to 10th place or he was running 10th place, and he's had a spin. He was running 9th, actually, because Amari Watson's got past him. Down into 13th. Got it all sorts of out of shape. A little wide into the chicane. Yeah, there you see it. He got wide into the chicane and then was on the less grippy part of the circuit. Everyone avoided him. Plenty of places lost there for Alex Lahou. There you go. It's not much grip out there, and the rear does want to come around on you, especially considering that at this circuit... Oh, and he's just touched the wall quite heavily in the third sector as well, or the end of the second sector, but anyway... Yeah, especially since at this circuit, sorry, McGorgy is about to line Darius Andre up for something like the millionth lap in a row, no exaggeration, and Andre pits, and that puts a stop to this battle for now. It allows Krop onto the back of McGorgy, so let's see what Moritz Krop can do about Owen McGorgy as Andre pits. He'll go onto the harder tyre, but he'll go onto it earlier than the others, meaning he'll have fresher tyres at the end of the race. And he'll also not have to worry about cars flying past him on the straights now. Could this be a move that pays off for Darius Andre? Or will he lose out by not having the slipstream in the second DRS zone? Only time will tell. Damien Kardash just passed Jason Muscat there for P9. Down into turn 3. And Krop versus McGorgy is a more interesting, or I say more interesting, it's a very different battle than McGorgy versus Andre. Because unlike McGorgy versus Andre, Krop and McGorgy's cars are both similarly quick on the straights, and they both have their advantage at the same part on the circuit, which effectively acts as a stalemate and cancels out the advantage that either one of these cars would get. Krop, though, does have the advantage of DRS and slipstream, which McGorgy will have to contend with. And of course, all of these drivers, while they are fighting for position right now, will have to consider the fact that any lap now, they've also got to make a pit stop. Everyone's got to, whether you want to or not. And that's quite a long yellow flag there, not sure why. Adrian Faber appears to be struggling a little, but I don't know if he'd hit anything. McGorgy, slipstream by Krop. Krop to the inside, and he goes through now on the straight. So Moritz Krop leads the race. It's been such a chaotic race, I can't even remember whether he led a lap earlier on or not, but he's led a lap now. McGorgy gets the DRS in the second zone. And look at the whole field snaking over to the left-hand side as Krop goes defensive. Into the left-hander. And then a right-hander. Krop does have the lead of the race. McGorgy was not able to get him back at the part of the course that's most ideally suited for revenge attacks. Great stuff here at Baku. On Darius Andre watch, he is 17th. Has come up a little way behind Philip Koenig's build sim car and doesn't appear to really be gaining on him, because he's about the same amount of time behind him as he was when he came out of the pits. Is gaining on him now. The trouble with Darius is that he'll be gaining on these other cars in the castle section and in the tighter bits, which is where he can't overtake them, like right now. Oh, and Jako Karbachik there just had a little slide coming out of the castle section, drops behind this bunch. So that's one place gain for Andre, but look, oh, he touched there. He touched the back of Philip Koenig's car. Oh my goodness, and he's lost his front wing. Darius Andre has hit the wall, and he's hit the build sim car of Philip Koenig. He's sideways across the track and rejoins. And that was a misjudgment from Darius, getting super duper antsy about the car of Philip Koenig ahead of him. Not sure he realised quite how many cars there were ahead of Philip. Watch this from on board. You're going to see a little misjudgment. There's the first one, but he's going to hit him again. Runs into the back of the same car twice, and then piles him into the wall. I'm afraid Darius only has himself to blame for that one. It is an easy mistake to make. It does remind me of an accident that I had the other day, actually, that I caused. But, and Luke Mitchell's also into the pits just ahead of them. But yeah, Darius there, I'm afraid, might be expecting a penalty from that one, as well as the penalty of having lost his front wing. That's his chance of winning this race long gone, I would say. And a big shame for Darius Andre. So Kropp, McGorgy, Stevens, Denahan, Frank Hamming's there as well. Mike Quint is on the tail of them. These drivers are the ones who have the highest chance of winning this race. It is just about a DRS train that goes down to 6th place. Hamming is only just hanging on to Denahan though, but will probably get DRS. Now can McGorky slipstream his way past Kropp and reverse the order that was reversed only a lap or two ago through the S's? Towards the pit lane, Kropp moves over to the left. Now is that just to cut the toe of Owen McGorgy, or is it to head to the pit lane? They stay out. Towards turn 1. He'll be trying to set himself up for the second braking zone. Mike Quint has come into the pits. McGorky was a little tighter than Kropp through that last corner, but it looks as if Kropp's a little faster on the straight. And into the braking zone, they stay in order. Manu Klontz now into the top 10, both Multiforce cars are. Decent showing from them so far, especially considering, of course, that Manu wasn't even sure if he'd be racing today due to feeling under the weather. But he's decided to race anyway, and he's looking decent for points. Of course, he's not really in the top 10 in the net order, because he and a bunch of others are yet to make their mandatory pit stop. But still, keep your eye on that. Towards the end of race 1 at Baku, we tend to see some drivers losing time with brake failures and things like that. Tell you what, Jake Denahan is so close to the back of Tom Stevens through the castle section. If Tom Stevens' car was... Ooh, look at that, going super defensive now. And that's actually pretty good play from Denahan there, because Stevens has had to give up the advantage that he would otherwise get with a good exit going onto the straight. And now, of course, Stevens may even lose the slipstream, may even lose the DRS of McGorgy ahead of him. He has done, look. So the two leaders break away. Denahan, not sure if he's going to be able to get Stevens in the braking zone here, but he's going to be close. Turn 3 may be an opportunity. Keep watching that as I go and investigate why the yellow flags are out. Martin Buchan appears to have retired from the race. And Maciej Heiler has been into the pits. Denahan will try to use the brakes just as we saw Darius Andre doing so many times earlier on. Oh, and he touches the wall. That was a little too far back, a little too ambitious. Buchan's incident, unfortunately, was a big one in the castle section. He has absolutely walloped the wall, and there is no chance he was going to be finishing this race after that one. So, oh, and a big crash between Kierit de Vries and Luke Mitchell. So de Vries and Mitchell have come together out of the final turn there. One of the fastest and worst places to have an accident. And that all started because de Vries touched the wall on the inside, bounced into the outside wall, and got absolutely T-boned by Luke Mitchell. And thank goodness that this is a sim race, because that would have been super serious in real life, I'm afraid. Mitchell is out of this race, as is Kalbarczyk, and he wasn't even involved in that, so I'll have to check what that's all about. Look at Andre now. Sorry, Denahan and Stevens. Denahan once again forcing Stevens to give up that advantage, possibly give up the DRS. Yeah, Kalbarczyk had a shunt on his own earlier in the lap, actually. Coming out of the caster section, that's where he had an incident earlier on. Stevens heading into the pits? Nope, just defensive. These drivers leaving it out later. Frank Hamming into the pits now. But Krop, McGorgy, Stevens, Denahan, Watson, all yet to stop. Frank Hamming in his box. They will all be going onto the hard Compano tyre, and if they don't, they've made a mistake. Forgot to set their tyres to change or something like that, because it's crucial that they do. Kardash and Patterson about to exit the pits as well. Kardash ahead of Patterson in that one. Unsurprisingly, Jason Muscat, one of the last cars to leave it out super late. Aside from the leaders, of course, although when the leaders come in, chances are Muscat will still be there. He'll probably get to lead this race for a bit, actually, because that tends to be what happens. There you see the number of stops that people have made. Frank Hamming is the top driver who has pitted. Quinton Heiler also there. Andre's been into the pits twice now, and that's of course because he knocked off his front wing and had to make an unscheduled stop. There is the battle once again. Stevens under attack from Denahan. Probably doesn't need to go that defensive. However, he knows that if Denahan was able to get through into that corner there, then he'd drop even further back from the top two, and there'd be no chance of a 1-2 for Nocturne. DRS now. Denahan has it, Stevens does not. And McGorky and Krop have swapped, and that's because Krop's in the pits. So our race leader pits, as does Jake Denahan. So McGorky will lead the race once again. Remco de Jus just had a spin out on track. I'm afraid he's lost his front wing, so his day goes from bad to worse. Moritz exits the pits. Also in behind him, that's Jake Denahan there. I said that already, didn't I? But anyway, they stay in the same order. And de Jus has retired. 22 cars remaining in this race now. So, Frank Hamming's in a good position here in the HGP car. He's got clean road in front of him and had that from the time he came out. And again, it's debatable whether you want a clean road at this track. You want it to be clean in the castle section, but found the start-finish straight. I mean, you can gain a second from slipstream and DRS if you get it exactly right. And that can make all the difference. The top four, remember, are the cars that we're waiting for to come in. And Kierit de Vries is out of the race, so 21 cars remaining. This is what I'm talking about with the Baku attrition. There's going to be potentially even more attrition in race 2 because yes, it's a shorter race, but drivers have less to race for in race 2. Their positions don't alter the starting order of any particular race like they do here. So drivers are more likely to give up once they've had an accident. And McGorky into the pits, and he comes in from the lead. So Tom Stevens will take over the lead of the race for the first time today. And Amari Watson comes in behind him as well. So 2 of the top 4. We only have and Muscat's in. So Muscat, for once, not the last car to make his stop. Kropp goes through. Kropp gets ahead of Owen McGorky, which is exactly what he needed to do. Denahan will be 3rd temporarily, depending on where Tom Stevens comes out once he's made his stop. It's briefly a nocturne 1-2, but Stevens will likely pit this lap, or very, very soon. We only have a few laps left in this race. The fact that they've pitted so late, though, does show you that tyre wear is not particularly high at this circuit, and there's a good chance that in the Super League race, drivers will run pretty much the majority of the race on the softest compound of tyre that they can, and then just do a short stint on a harder compound like the mediums or whatever. Bit too early to be thinking about Super League, though. I'm just trying to build up hype for that race in a week's time. Out through the castle section again. Go Kropp and McGorky. McGorky will still be in DRS range though, so even though the gaps have been extended ever so slightly by the pit stage, they have not changed order. Jake Denahan's still there as well in 4th place. Crucially though, what does Tom Stevens do? He pits, so Stevens will come in. Now, how much time do you lose by pitting? There's no real definite answer here because it all depends on how good you are at slowing down, going through that chicane on pit entry, and also how good your in-laps and out-laps were. But Kropp has gone through, so Moritz Kropp retakes the lead of the race. McGorky will be 2nd. Now what about Stevens versus Denahan? Stevens does come out ahead of Denahan, so the top 3 stay the same as they were before the pit window. Looks as if Stevens may have lost even more time to McGorky and Kropp though. So let the battle for 3rd continue. The trouble for Denahan is that he can't really win this one. He needs to be ahead by the... he needs to be, decently ahead. Look at this, he's going to go to the inside. No, he's not. Okay, I really thought he was going to go for that then. Yeah, it needs to be a decent way ahead by the time they get to the final braking zone on the last lap. Because if he doesn't... Oh, look at this. Almost pushing Kropp's car out of turn 6 there. Gets alongside him. This will be a good move. Wow. Oh, he's still there. He's not going to risk this, is he? Hold on to your seats, everyone. They make it. He made it. Amazing move from Jake Denahan. And I tell you what, that was psychological driver. He was saying to Tom, right, well, I'm here now. What are you going to do about it? If Tom had turned in, they would have crashed. But Jake had every right to be there. He'd got his car alongside out of the previous corner. Very clever racing from Jake Denahan. In fact, I'd say he's been the cleverest so far today. We've seen his strategy of forcing Tom defensive into the final braking zone of the lap. Working out a few times, keeping Jake on the back of Tom's car. Now Tom's probably going to pass him back again on this straight now. He's got a faster car by quite a long way. Goes to the inside and goes through. But that was a super move from Jake Denahan there. Partly just showing Tom what he can do. As Muscat's lost his wings. Muscat, who was running within the top 10 and was... Oh, he just stopped, hadn't he? So Muscat there is going to have to come in again. And that's going to ruin his race. Oh, and Quint's out. So Quint, who was also in the points. Now, was that related, maybe? Can have a quick look back at that. And there is Jake Denahan right back on the tail of Tom Stevens' car. Now, it was related, so Muscat and Quint did crash together, and it was Quint losing control. So the replay, as we try to catch up on the replay, but what you're going to see, well, there they are. There's the two of them. Quint is the car ahead, and Muscat's the car behind. Quint's going to have a huge twitch in the S's, and Muscat's going to have nowhere to go. And also, watch Maciej Heiler behind the green car there, because he is going to put on some amazing avoidance here. There's the twitch, there's the crunch, and there's the avoidance from Maciej Heiler, and look at that as well. Damien Kardash splitting the needle. Amazing stuff. He goes 8th. Quite a good race from Damien. I believe he started quite a long way down compared to this. Yeah, started 15th. Good stuff. So after even more retirements, 20 cars remaining in this race now. Scott Mitchell's back in the pits though, so his day going from bad to worse, but so long as you continue, you're going to be starting higher in higher for race 2 than you would if you'd given up after your accident or whatever. Stevens and Dennehan have got traffic here, which may actually help Stevens a bit, because for once he's going to have DRS. Can he use it to get away from Jake Dennehan into the section where Dennehan usually gets him back? This course is usually split up into the standard street section and then the castle section. Today I think it's split into the nocturne section and the TCS off section. Not the official names, but they might as well be on a day like today. Dennehan's still there, isn't he? But you see, this is the section of the course where if Stevens' car wasn't there, Dennehan would get maybe a second up the road. But Stevens' car is there, so he's got to deal with it. At 21 out of 25. 2 seconds to gap for the lead, so Kropp is getting away from Owen McGorgy. Still not dominating this race. One mistake could put it all back in the balance. Oh, and that is a big issue, and they're still there, so don't panic, and maybe do panic. We may be having server issues once again here. Every now and again we see the cars flashing back into the screen, so I believe there's some sort of connection still going on. But we do appear to be having server issues here. Now recently in Act 2 there have been a quite worrying increase in the number of server issues or server related issues that have been taking place. There have been races abandoned for it. There have been races postponed for it. And the drivers know today to keep racing on because the server may come back as it did briefly in Portimao. This server does appear to be kind of hanging on a bit better than it did at the time. So for now the race continues, as hard as it is to commentate it. Now this is no fault of our cameraman, it's no fault of the league itself. There's a theory that it may be some sort of DDoS related thing that's going on, although that is very much unconfirmed. It's been happening with the Assetto Corsa Competizione, but we don't know if it's the same issue that's happening with R Factor 2. And if the race was to be red flagged and taken from the time when the issue started to happen, then it would be a full race. You would be allowed to declare it a result, although I can't help but feel that the second race would have to be abandoned as well if that was the case. The race continues with the cars flying about all over the place, and please ignore that. What you're seeing on your screen is not what the drivers will be seeing, or anything along those lines. We can't accurately tell you what the order is, because every time you see the order change, it may just be a car not being registered for a few moments and then pinging back into existence. So right now, we just have to kind of bide our time and wait for a result to come through, or for the server to sort itself out. Luckily, we didn't get anything like this in Super League the other day. I was quite worried, not gonna lie. But we did get a race in the end. And I don't know what we're gonna do about this, actually, as a league. It's an issue that appears to be over the entire sim, not just any particular leagues, which shows a fundamental issue. And if there's a way to resolve it by, I don't know, maybe rolling back to a previous version of the game or something along those lines, then I'm sure that the race directors will be considering all of those options and we'll put them into play. But for the time being, this is what we've got. An unwatchable, uncommentatable mess. Just bear with us. There you see Moritz Krop. Not acting at all like a car should be. And continuing on his way to what we assume will be a race win. Down the straight. I hope we don't have any photosensitive viewers today. I hope that I hope you'll forgive me for the disappointment you can probably hear in my voice here. This isn't the kind of racing that we needed to see today. Barely racing, is it? Let's read the comments, shall we? A lot of people complaining or laughing. I'm glad you guys can laugh, actually, because that's all we can do right now. Make the most of the silliness and wait to see what happens later. Watch this, Moritz is going to just disappear through this wall on the left. Whee! Little touch. Is he going to go straight on through the castle section? Nope, makes it through. Scandinavian flick is very much real, that. Bouncing off every barrier. Decides he wants to be part of the lawn there. Now down towards his final lap, thank goodness. These S's are dangerous. He's just not going to take them. Very wise. Best race ever, says CCL. Yeah, I bet you're glad you're not in it anymore. Prop getting sideways. Yeah, very sideways. Normally when drivers go for low oh, and Alex Lahuru is apparently out of this race now. He was heading for points. I'm wondering, actually, if this race does go the full distance, I mean, I presume they'll get points for wherever they finished, but the race director might use the option potentially to take the results from when this issue started happening. And he'll do that if, say, there were drivers who thought the race was going to be red flagged and pulled over or something like that. Or maybe if the lagging issues caused accidents, then it would probably be taken from about lap 21. But right now, I think we've got to assume that Moritz Krop is about to win this sorry excuse for a race. And here we come out of the final braking zone again. towards the line. Dylan Platt says, I'm running out of stuff to say. Yeah, me too. Me too. Oh my goodness, head-on collision there. And Moritz Krupp's going to win. Well, again, may not have been the best race to cover, but Moritz did everything right. Certainly wasn't his fault. And it was a pretty good drive. And is it going okay? Like, after they finished the race? It looks as if... Okay, never mind. I was speaking too soon. So Moritz wins then, followed by Owen McGorgy, Tom Stevens, Jake Danahan, Frank Hamming, Omari Watson, Mathieu Heiler, Damien Kardash, Menogue Plant. What's his first name again? Let me get the server back up. Robert Pawn, sorry. First time watching him race. And then Darius Andre, Jason Muscat, Pisces Miram, Mike Bell. A couple of DNFs being registered there, but I assume Craig Patterson still gets 15th. Server appears to be switching over, and I'm not sure everyone had actually finished the race yet. Oh well. Now we've got to wait on the race director to see whether we are going to attempt a race 2 or not. If we do, we've all just got to keep our fingers crossed that this does not happen again. Personally, though, I think that R Factor 2 is unraceable nowadays. I think we've had so many server issues recently that now the question is, every time we go racing, are we actually racing the full distance, or are we racing until the server crashes? And that's not acceptable. So I think we need to go away from this, and before we next go out there again, we need to find a solution. If that means postponing the next few races, then that might end up being what happens. But obviously I'll have to leave that up to the race directors. And once again, I've lost connection to the server. So we're going to go for a brief break, and we'll be back if we get a second race. See you then. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to attempt to go racing again here at GPVWC. I have a few things to unpack, actually, so let's run through them very quickly. Well, there's the circuit that we're at. We're still at the Baku City Circuit, getting ready for, hopefully, 17 laps in Race 2. Now, if you saw Race 1 just a few minutes ago, you would have seen that it went very badly wrong in the last few laps with some very bad server issues. That has been resolved. Basically, we've had... well, the server issues themselves, we don't know if they've been resolved. We hope they have. But basically, the thing the race director has said is that the red flag will be retroactively flown at the end of lap 20, if that makes sense. So basically, the results of race 1 have been taken from lap 20, which is about when the issues started, meaning that the order is basically the same. It does mean that Jason Muscat gets a bit of a get out of jail free card because he'd had a bit of a shunt. But anyway, he's now... I thought he was a bit higher up the order than 15th, that actually, but never mind. I'm sure the race director will be sorting it all out. And this will be the grid as we got going. Damien Kardash on pole position. We'll run through it all in a second. Yeah, the starting order, please, Simon. Thank you. Okay, Damien Kardash there on the front row of the grid alongside Maciej Heiler, Amari Watson, and then Frank Hamming. So it looks like the reverse grid number drawn was 8. Jake Dennehan will be P5 alongside Tom Stevens, then Owen McGorgy and our race 1 winner Moritz Kropp, who would have won it anyway had it gone the full distance, as we saw. Alex Laho P9, then Menno Klont, Craig Patterson and Robert Pawn, who scored some points on his GPVWC debut, not bad at all, and it is his GPVWC debut overall. Adrian Faber 13th, then Darius Andre, Jason Muscat and Perseus Miram. A few more cars to go now. Mike Bell, Vincent Gutt, Scott Mitchell, Mike Quinn. We do have a little bit of a reduced grid from race 1, some drivers not willing to try again. Jarek de Vries, then Remco de Joux, Jakub Kalbarczyk and Luke Mitchell. And 2 more cars to go, Martin Buchan and Alexander Ragosa. One of the cars that's missing is Philip Koenig. It's just come up that he's pending an open session. Now that normally means that they attempted to join but too late. So it looks as if Philip Koenig will not be starting. Also, I think only one of the E-Team Brick cars is out there. Yes, indeed. So, to the grid we go. There has been some debate as to whether we should be going racing or not. Some drivers were very much against it. Some wanted to give it a go. Why not, I guess? I mean, even if we do end up having more issues or whatever, at least they would have had some track time, and all of that that practice that they've been putting in over the last 2 weeks won't have gone to nothing. But we just got to cross our fingers and hope it goes to full way now. The top 8 drivers on soft tyres, Alex Laho will be the top driver on hards. You can go the full distance without pitting, and according to Toby Davis, who very nicely kept us company over the break, it's going to be tight as to whether they do go the full distance or not. They probably will on, I mean, they definitely will on softs, but you can only just do it, so they will need to be careful. So here we go, we're lining up on the grid now. And after 2 red flagged races in a row in Formula Sprint 1 and a cancelled race last time out, let's hopefully go the full distance. Watch for the lights. 5 red lights will illuminate at the front of the grid. And then when they go out, we will be underway for 17 laps of racing at Baku, and it's go! Damien Kardash puts the power down, but not as well as Maciej Heiler, who storms through into the lead. Great start from Heiler. Amari Watson goes up the inside to second as well, so it was more like a bad start for Damien. Now he's getting back at Watson down the straight, and does get through into turn 2. So back into second goes Damien Kardash, and a little bit of a bunch up towards the back. Jarek de Vries gets muscled out, and unfortunately Scott Mitchell has lost his front wing. So we do have some instance. Also Perseus Miram missing his front wing. Watson and Dennehan now side by side. Dennehan ran the outside. I wonder how much of a change to their setup the TCS off guys went for after the first race. How much could they risk? Mitchell has stopped in the runoff area, and he becomes our first retirement from this race. Laho and Stevens are side by side. That's who you're watching on your screen right now. And Stevens keeps second, but not a bad start from Laho, considering he's the top driver on media or harder tyres, and almost lost out to our race 1 winner Moritz Kropp, who has actually lost a place at the start of this race to Alex Laho. Here's a replay of, I think, probably the Scott Mitchell incident. Well, here's Jarek de Vries. Now and there is a crash up ahead. That was Miram and Mitchell getting involved, and then de Vries goes almost into the escape road and has to turn his car sharply around to get back into the action. Back to the action, it's still Heiler leading from Kardash, Dennehan, Watson, and then further back, Laho actually got a really bad exit to that corner there, so Kropp's going to be all over him like a rash on the straight, and a big crash! Laho loses it! Laho is sideways to the traffic, and hopefully everyone's going to avoid him, but that's a big shame for a driver who'd made a really good start there. Alex Laho got all sorts of out of shape out of that final braking zone of the course, got over the curb and out of control. Here are the two HGP cars being swamped now by Owen McGorgy. And McGorgy passes both of them. Great move, great straight line speed. That's probably one of the reasons that HGP haven't been as competitive today as they have been at previous races. They haven't quite got the straight line speed. Ooh, bit of a twitch there from Pawn, but he makes it through. Craig Patterson, and look at that, 3 wide with Jason Muscat as well on the inside. And Darius Andre coming through and nudges Pawn. He's giving him a shove down the straight to try to push him through the middle of the two cars either side. Watson and Stevens just swapped, so Watson now... Sorry, I think Stevens was trying to have a go at Watson, but Watson is ahead of him. And still the battles continue further back. Kalbachik and Pawn side by side. You're going to see a replay on board with Alex Lahu. This is his accident. He's going to go wide and then bounce off the barriers on the right-hand side there. And he was so lucky that everyone avoided him, because look at that, sideways to the traffic on the outside of a corner. Look at the entire field streaming over to the left to avoid where he ended up. Here's Frank Hamming now, running P5 on the back of Owen McGorgy. Over the curb, that's a treacherous corner. Next lap, DRS will be available from the exit of turn 2 onwards. Big twitch from Hamming. He did touch the wall, less so than Lahu, luckily. And he'll get away with it. Now, Kardash, within half a second of Hyler. This is his first real opportunity now down the straight to get back into that P1 position that he had at the start. Stevens also passing Amari Watson for P6 further back. But look at Kardash up the inside. Oh, they very nearly touch. Adrian Faber now passing Manu Clont further back. That's for P9. Gets it. Some good fighting going on into turn 1. Patterson being edged out by Darius Andre, who has a lot to gain after the incident he had in the first race. I feel sorry for Philip Koenig. He attempted to contact Chris to see if he could still rejoin the race, but he was too late, I'm afraid, so he is not in this race. Manu Clont and Adrian Faber once again going side by side, just as they did down into the start-finish straight this time around. Now the DRS will be available. Hyler, Kardash, Denahan, McGorgy. In fact, the DRS train for the lead goes all the way down to 5th. And Stevens is almost in it as well, and probably will be by the time they get to the straight due to Nocturne's straight line speed. Luckily for him, the DRS detection zone is actually quite late on the start-finish straight, giving him time to use the straight line speed to get back into DRS range before he opens the flap and the car goes even faster. Jake Denahan lining up Damien Kardash. Has a really good chance of winning this race, actually, because I mean, in the ways he struggled in race 1, actually, I tell you what, McGorgy's going to have him here, isn't he? No, so never mind that. I feel like McGorgy and Kardash are about to leave Denahan in the dust. McGorgy to the left, Denahan to the right. Whoa, and McGorgy had to lift off, and they do touch, and they do still go 3 wide. And Hyler, sorry, really has to lift off there. So I think I might have erroneously called him Kardash, but that was a really close one. McGorgy did not know where... Yeah, sorry, I was a bit confused there. That was Damien Kardash involved. It was Kardash, Denahan and Hyler. Oh, and a big crash, and it's Darius Andre, Luke Mitchell and Jaka Kalbachik. 3 drivers absolutely destroyed on the exit turn 1 there. Yeah, apologies for getting... Oh, and Hyler spins! Hyler spins, he gets collected by McGorgy. And McGorgy still keeps his front wing. Hyler has kept his as well, but only just. Now here's a replay of the crash. Frank Hamming is up to 3rd now. It looks as if Andre spun. Oh, and that is a huge one. No wonder there's drivers out of the race after that. Hyler dropping back even further. And is out of the race, so Hyler has elected to disappear, I'm afraid. it's briefly and erroneously showing him as leading this race, but he is out, I'm afraid to say. There is McGorgy almost losing a place to Tom Stevens. Now the order is beginning to update itself, and Hyler is beginning to drop back. But yeah, tragedy for one of the drivers who was really showing himself as a force to be reckoned with in this race. Damien Kardash now, the next driver to attack Jake Dennehan, will get him back after all of that. Dennehan did a great job to pass cars on the straight there. It was all about positioning for him. And I think they have altered their setup slightly, potentially. Stevens there does pass McGorky now, up into P4. 2 nocturnes. Close and fighting. Ragosa's passed Porn into turn 1. Mike Bell trying to get involved as well. 21 cars remaining in this race already, so we've had quite a lot of attrition. Some of these cars disappeared before the race even started, and we've seen a few crashes as well. Andre makes it back into the pits along with Martin Buchan. Don't know what he was involved in. Adrian Faber. Now, has he lost his front wing, or am I just not seeing it? Yes, he has lost his front wing. I said that in the... Oh, and he's given up. Goes to the outside, hits the wall. So Faber becomes another retirement. I said that in the last race, but then realised that his front wing was actually just too dark. I couldn't see it. But right now, you see he has lost his front wing, and is now out of this race. Here's Hamming and Kardash, not able to stick with Dennehan in this fast section of circuit. This is what Dennehan needs, clean air out in front. Ooh, and a big twitch from Hamming. He was distracted by Kardash touching the wall in front of him. 2 seconds now the gap to Dennehan, so Dennehan's pretty safe actually as they head onto the straight. And a twitch from Kardash just cements that. It's a battle for second now. Here comes Frank Hamming. HGP doesn't have as much straight line speed as the Gallery 82 from what we've seen, so this could be quite close as they drag down the straight. Hamming does now have DRS, which is why he's going quicker. And look at Tom Stevens coming from absolutely nowhere and blasting through like a rocket ship. And they very nearly touch, but round the outside goes Tom Stevens. Fantastic move. It's like Daniel Ricciardo in 2018. Oh, and that's very tight on the apex. Hamming does get Kardash round the outside. That's Owen McGorky you're on board with now, getting involved. The championship leader coming into this round. To the inside. 3 wide. That's dangerous. They touch. They just make it through. There was a touch of the wall for Frank Hamming. Or it's Crop getting involved now. Oh, they're bouncing off the barriers. Need hopefully not too much damage. That was dangerous. McGorky trying to startle Damien Kardash. McGorky doing a very good job not to spin any of these guys out, actually. He looks to be committing to moves that he's not going to make, but then he bails out just in time. Obviously not over-committing. And that was a little bit of a wonky line there from Kardash up through the castle section. Can Stevens get after Dennehan now? We know he's faster in a straight line, so if he gets up with him, he will overtake him. And Tom has the fastest lap of any driver right now. So there's definitely a possibility. He'd have to gain just over 2 seconds though. Some of that can be done through slipstreaming, but not all of it. 3 seconds the gap now. It's going to come down to about 2 seconds on the straight, I presume. Here's McGorgy with Kardash to the outside. And through as well. Moritz Krupp trying to find an opening. Whoa, getting forced right over by Damien Kardash. Oh, and they're going 3 wide into the corner. Touch, and Moritz Krupp goes round. Our race 1 winner spins. And rejoins straight into the path of another car. Manu Klont there, who somehow keeps his wing, and he rejoins again. 2 unsafe rejoins from Moritz Krupp. That was Craig Patterson he hit, and Patterson does lose his front wing. Now, I totally empathise with Moritz there because the initial incident was not his fault. He got spun round from behind, and you're going to see a replay of that now, but I mean, without trying to place too much judgment on an obviously fired up driver, his rejoins were not acceptable. Kardash goes into the back of him. I think both of those drivers may be getting penalties for that. Because there's the second hit, and here's the third one. That's not okay. I'm really sorry. I do like Moritz. He's a lovely, cheerful character. But that's not the best he's ever driven. Moritz is now out of this race because he tried to bring it back to the pits too fast, spun the car again, and bailed out. Our race 1 winner will be coming away with no points from race 2. Craig Patterson is also out now with his damage, so 18 cars remaining. Stevens' gap to Denahan's come right down. He's gained 2 seconds. He's within 2 seconds now as well of Jake Denahan ahead of him. I think he might be able to catch him soon, actually. Although Denahan does have slipstream from a lapped car. Is that Andre? I think that's Darius Andre, who has strategically placed himself. That is Darius Andre. So Andre, who's nearly a lap down, has strategically placed himself to give Jake Denahan a perfect slipstream. Ragosa and Quint now side by side. Quint getting ninth place, sorry. Don't know why I started to say second. And McGorky's about to have a go at Hamming for third. McGorky with a great run to the inside. Doesn't quite have the brakes for it. Good stuff though. Hamming's going to be super vulnerable this lap. Stevens now within a second of Denahan. He doesn't even need the DRS really to overtake him, but he's within a second anyway. Gut to the inside of Bell. Bell keeps 11th. So, another lap completed, another lap about to be completed in a few corners' time. But there's a big old hulking straight between where the cars are now and then. And Tom Stevens is definitely close enough to Jake Denahan to try a move, I'd say. Doesn't look like it, but the speed differential of those cars is insane. We've been seeing cars running side by side with each other down the straight, and then a Nocturne coming out of nowhere and just blasting through the middle of them. Seen it 2 or 3 times in this race so far. And Jake Denahan will be watching his mirrors now and thinking, you stay back, please. McGorgy is going for third on Hamming as well. So Denahan does just about keep the lead. And McGorgy does get through into P3. Here comes the second DRS zone. There's probably not as much of an overtaking opportunity for Stevens because Denahan is extremely good in the braking zone down here. There's the Gert and Bell battle again. Gert on the inside, Bell on the outside. They stay in order. Do you like the way that Andre gave Denahan a bit of a slipstream there about a lap ago? He's actually pulling away from this lead scrap on his new tyres and all. Bell and Gut still almost banging wheels there. Oh, and Bell's losing it. Oh, that's a big hit into the wall. Still got his wing. Remco de Jeu getting involved. De Jeu is one of the drivers who did not want this race to get going again, but he may, or did not want this race to start, but he may be changing his mind now because he has a good chance of scoring points here. Stevens even closer to Denahan than he was a lap ago. I reckon this is going to be it, but will he stay ahead once he gets ahead? That's the thing, because we've seen how Denahan can often get straight back through into turn 3. Down the straight we go. Sorry, I don't know quite what you said there, Szymon, but thank you for the... well, Denahan was trying as well. Sorry, never mind. Okay, so Stevens there getting close to Denahan down into turn 1. fairly close. There's the second DRS zone in the slipstream. 7 laps to go. You only need to be ahead the end of the very last lap, and that pretty much goes without saying. Bell's got decently ahead of Gut and Dejoux here in that fight for P11. So, what are you guys thinking about this race? I think it's been a little chaotic so far, but right now we're into the 10th stage, and this is actually the part that I quite like, because it sets us up for a good finish here between Denahan and Stevens. I do believe that Denahan has altered his setup slightly for the second race, and it's working a little better than it did in the first one. And a big twitch there from Jake Denahan. Touches the wall, survives. Here's Robert Pawn, this is a replay. That's Remco Dejoux just ahead of him. Went for it, and touches him, and spins. Bounces off the wall trying to recover. They stay in the same positions, but that's some lost time there. Here are the leaders now. Both up 4 places from their starting position, but that's about to change because here comes Tom Stevens now. And Tom Stevens takes the lead of the race ahead of Jake Denahan, who settles for second, but now he's got to line himself up and get back through into turn 3. That's his only chance now of winning this race, because if he doesn't, Stevens is going to be long gone next time they go down the start-finish straight. Here comes Jake Denahan. Now it's about the braking zone, and he is not able to get back at Tom Stevens. It looks to me as if Stevens now has the advantage in this race as Watson takes Hamming. The 2 HGP cars swap. So after 11 laps of racing, it's Stevens, Denahan, McGorgy, Watson and Hamming the top 5. Then Muscat, Kardash, Quint and Ragosa. Those are the top 10 racers. And unless Stevens makes a mistake now, you've got to say, this is his race to lose. I don't think he's going to lose it. I shouldn't be saying that, should I? I'm a commentator. But anyway. Martin Buchan, meanwhile, first driver off the lead lap. He lost his front wing earlier on, so that's why he's struggling so much. Darius Andre now, fastest lap of the race, but he's going to need some more retirements to get back into this one. Let's see quickly, how much have TCSoft's improvements to their setup actually affected things? How well can he keep up with Tom Stevens down the straight? In race 1, there was probably about a second's difference between them in a straight line. Now it's going to be mitigated a little by the DRS here, but look at this, he's actually keeping up quite well with Tom Stevens here. Gained on him in the straight. You wouldn't have seen that in race 1. Much more balanced setup from TCSoft now, and that would probably have been as simple as just taking some wings off. Their car worked well in qualifying when they didn't have any other cars around them to slipstream with or to have to overtake. In the race though, you always want to have a car that's faster in a straight line than your opponents, because that's where you overtake. And in the corners, where TCSoft have been quick, they haven't been able to get through. Tom Stevens has 5 laps to go now to win this race. Jake Denahan won't want to accept. Oh, and look, oh my goodness! And there's an incident, and it's Darius Andre! Darius Andre has spun his car. Oh, and that's another unsafe rejoin. I mean, it's a dangerous corner to rejoin in the first place. And he's out. He's out of the race. Now, Darius Andre has inadvertently helped his teammate there. Look at this. He lost control of the car all by himself, pulled over to the left-hand side. Tom Stevens got absolutely balked. And Jake Denahan, in the other TCSoft car, retook the lead of the race. It looks as if that may have been Frank Hamming who knocked into the rear of Darius Andre's car. It was actually a Murray Watson, sorry. The other HGP car. 2 seconds is the gap now, so Stevens has got to gain that back again. He won't have damage, it was way too slow for that. But he is going to lose plenty of time. I want to look at the YouTube chat quickly to see what everyone's saying about that. Oh my goodness, Josh Downard saying there's potentially a few grid drops to be given out here for Monaco, which will make Monaco even better, yes, because we're going to have some quick drivers starting further back and attempting overtakes at a track that you really can't overtake on. Good point. Downard saying good tactics from Darius. Yeah, before you bring up the conspiracy theories, mistakes like that are relatively easy to make. That's a corner where you're turning and braking at the same time on the apex, and so you definitely can spin the car around there like that. Stevens with a bit of a twitch actually through the S's, through the chicane, sorry. Yeah, I don't in any way believe or mean to suggest that Darius did that deliberately, and I hope that none of you believe that either. But it did help out his teammate there. It's not like you can take that away either, because Jake's not done anything wrong. Apologies if you heard my cat there. Yeah, Jake's not done anything wrong. And the only car to blame was out of the lead battle anyway. I am just going to let my cat out quickly so that she doesn't meow in the broadcast again, but I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. Okay, I'm back. Apologies about that. Normally we have the GPVWC dog. Today we have the GPVWC cat. Frank Hamming is alongside Jason Muscat now, and that's Muscat going up into 5th place. So after a relatively subpar race 1 from Jason's point of view, this race 2 is going his way. I tell you what might be happening here. Jason is renowned for being awesomely good on his tyre preservation. As we heard from Toby Davis earlier on, as Vincent Gutt's about to pull a move on Mike Bell, as we heard from Toby Davis earlier on, the soft tyres can only just make this distance. So at this point, if one driver has better tyres than another, they're going to really feel that. They're going to really feel the difference. The two cars behind in that fight are Dejoux and Porn, who come together again, just as they did a few laps ago, which saw Porn spinning around. This time, he just makes it through the corner. But my goodness, that was close. Tom Stevens is catching Jake Dennehan here. Once again, he's within 2 seconds, but is it going to be too little too late? Has Darius Andre given Jake Dennehan a clear route to the victory? Here's a replay. Ooh, Dejoux touching the back of the car ahead of him and then being passed by Point. McGorgy is about to slipstream Tom Stevens as well. Just been never mind. Thought I'd just been messaged by one of the drivers or team managers, but it's actually someone completely different. McGorky with the slipstream and the DRS as they both get closer and closer to Jake Dennehan. They're still over a second back, so no DRS for Tom Stevens this time. But they're getting closer with 2 laps remaining. Let's see what the lap times were. Tom Stevens that last time around, 1:49.9. Jake Dennehan was 1:50.2. So if they continue at this rate, it's not going to change. But there is something to factor in here, which is that when when Stevens gets within a second of Dennehan, which he probably will do, he's going to get the DRS, and so he's going to end up catching faster. So it's definitely not over yet. Keep your mind open. Meanwhile, they're almost going 3 wide on the straight with Gutt, Bell, and Porn. Porn ran the outside. Great move. Making a mark on his first FS1 outing. His first GPVWC outing, full stop, actually. and his harder tyres coming into play now. Down into turn 3. Some of the guys behind thinking about it. And here's a replay. This is the move down into turn 1. You're going to see him go around the outside of both of them in what is a pretty mature move from a driver that we haven't really heard of before. Good stuff. Tom Stevens is very nearly within DRS range now of Jake Dennehan. There's going to be 2 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line this time. I think he can do it. I don't know if he will do it, but I think he can do it. Dennehan, though, has slipstream up ahead from another car, one of the build sim cars, who gets out of the way. That's Perseus Miran, who becomes the second driver a lap down. So if you finish on the lead lap in this race, you're guaranteed to get points. Just shows you how chaotic sprint races at street circuits like this can be. That may have been another lifeline for Jake Dennehan, because the DRS from Miram's car would have given him much more straight line speed than he would have otherwise have got. Deju now going side by side with Gut makes the move. P13. Tom Stevens has got to be driving the ride of his life right now. Not just to catch Dennehan, but to avoid being passed by Owen McGorgy, who's also right there. Don't forget about him. The biggest mover in this race appears to be an Alexander Ragosa there. Look, 16 positions, partly through attrition, but also a very good drive from Alexander Ragosa in the Gallery 82 Motorsport car. Jason Muscat also up 10 places. Amazing stuff from Jason Muscat. Oh, there we go. Okay, how about now? Okay, right. Sorry about that, everyone. Today has not been a good day for technical issues, and my microphone has just cost me the opportunity to commentate on one of the closest finishes in FS1. Tom Stevens got closer and closer to Jake Dennehan, slipstreamed him right to the line. You all saw it. It was close, less than a quarter of a second in the end. But in the end, Jake Dennehan came out victorious and well deserved. Tom Stevens will be annoyed, but that was a well deserved victory for Jake Dennehan. Second was Tom Stevens, and then we had Owen McGorgy. There's the order, in fact: McGorgy, Watson, Muscat, Hamming, Quint, Clont, Kardash, Ragosa. And then Robert Pawn, Romko Dejou, Vincent Gott, Mike Bell, and Gerrit Vries, the top 15, followed by Perseus Miram and Martin Buchan, and then a whole bunch of retirements. Okie dokie, well, I am pretty disappointed, so I'm going to relish the opportunity to have a bit of a break and get some interviews going. So first of all, I'm going to bring in our race one winner as you take a brief look at the calendar there. Moritz Kropp. Moritz, congratulations on your race one victory.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So Moritz, it was a really, really close race. You were having such a slipstream battle with McGorgy, with Stevens, with Andre. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so our initial goal was to get pole position, which unfortunately didn't happen. I went out of fuel on the final straight. Yeah. So we knew we had to do the job in the race, but we were quite conscious that we were better in the race. So we just tried to manage our way through. Obviously, we had higher top speed. I don't know if you were able to see. But yeah, I mean, they were just pretty fast in the middle sector, to be honest. And I had to keep up with them. And if they made a mess in the middle sector, I was able to overtake them in the final sector. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, it was just close. It was just, I mean, a lot of battling. And yeah, it was a bit messy as well because you don't want to hit the ball, obviously. So I'd rather just back out or something. And yeah.
And that's your second race one victory of this season. How much does that mean to you as a driver?
Yeah, a bit. Like, especially what happened last year was pretty unfortunate, and it was like a bit of payback or revenge, redemption day for Daniel Ricciardo in Monaco, something like that. And yeah, didn't quite happen in race 2 though. But yeah, I mean it's a great motivation for the next race. Obviously, we managed to get some points back in race 1.
Well, we do have to talk about race 2 briefly. Talk us through the crash. What happened?
Yeah, so I saw Owen and Kardash battling in front, and I was given the information that Kardash was falling back a little bit. So yeah, I got a run on Owen and Kardash, and it was pretty close. I almost touched the wall, and I don't know. I just got ahead of Kardash, and I was about to make a move on Owen, just stick the nose up the inside. But as soon as we started braking, I saw that Kardash was still going for it from like 10 meters back. I don't know. I have to watch the replay again. Maybe I'm just being, I don't know. I'm just still full of adrenaline, so I was not very happy. And then I obviously spun and I tried to recover, but I was in second gear instead of first, and I couldn't get the rear spinning. And I was like then in the middle of the racing line, and 2 people I think crashed into me. Again, sorry to Craig and Menno. I'm actually very sorry, very very sorry. And yeah, that's about it. Race 2 wasn't long.
Okay, that's very mature of you, Moritz. Congratulations on your victory, and thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Who won race 2? Jake Dennehan. Oh, he's not here. Okay, we can't interview Jake Dennehan just yet. Hopefully he can jump in time. On the podium for both races, though, we actually had 2 double podiums. Let's talk to Owen McGorky first. So, Owen, 2nd in race 1, 3rd in race 2. That feels good.
It feels good, yeah, but I mean, after what happened in race 1, it's not the best feeling because
Indeed, you were not that far behind Crop, and then suddenly, of course, everything went poo-poo. What actually? I mean, okay. First of all, let's start on a good note. Let's talk about that battle. You were slipstreaming Crop, you were slipstreaming Stevens, you were slipstreaming Andre on the straights every single time, swapping positions. What a race!
to me, it didn't really feel like too much of a race. I was just trying to survive, and I was working with Darius and using him for the slipstream. I was letting him through into turn 3 every lap after I overtook him there, just so I could follow him because I knew that he had more downforce than me and he could go quicker in the middle sector. I could just follow him through. But once the Nocturnes got past me, it wasn't the best because they were just so fast in a straight line.
Indeed, they were. But anyway, it was a fantastic race to watch. Then, of course, you went through the pit stop stages and found yourself in a much more kind of stable position. And then everything went wrong. What did you guys actually see out on the circuit?
I'd assume it's just the same as what you could see. Just everyone, apart from myself, just lagging about and going through walls and stuff. But
Wow.
there was one point where I think it was Faber on the apex of the last corner. He was just there lagging, and I had to avoid that. But I knew that it didn't really matter because it would be called off as a red flag.
Well, luckily it was in the end, and you still ended up finishing in 2nd position. And then another podium in race 3, race 2 as well, but 3rd place. Talk us through that, if you may.
Yeah, well, the start was pretty good. I can't really remember too much from the start just because of how chaotic it was. But I remember when I think it was Machi Hyla lost it, and I had nowhere to go. I just went into the side of him, and then I think Frank got past, and one of the Nocturnes was side by side with me, and that was close. But I managed to stay ahead there, and I knew I had the pace to catch Frank and overtake him. But yeah, race 2, it was pretty good. I mean, maybe if I had a bit more straight line speed, I could have gotten 2nd, maybe even 1st. But yeah, it's enough points for me to lead the championship still, which is good.
Indeed. Well, congratulations for that, Owen, and good luck in your future rounds.
Thanks.
Okay, so that was double podium finisher. In fact, from one double podium finisher, we can move on to the other, Tom Stevens. Hello, Tom. Hi, how are you?
Round overall.
Understandable. That was such a close finish. You certainly had that there.
Yeah. Did you see what happened?
Yeah. We saw it.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? How do you feel?
Well, it is what it is. Yeah. Obviously, it's very frustrating, but I can't go back in time and change it now, so just got to accept it. And, well, looking at that round as a whole, it was, we scored a lot of points, and it's unfortunate what happened to Moritz in race 2, but we still got a lot of points in that race, and it's pretty good for the championship. So, yeah.
So, yeah, indeed. Race 1 as well, P3, not bad, not the way that we would have liked that race to have ended, but I mean, for you, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah. In race 1, did lack a little bit of pace, making mistakes, because it was really interesting the fact that the TCS off guys went with quite high wings, and they were right behind me all the way through the middle sector, and that puts a lot of pressure on, and then I kept making mistakes, and then gap formed to the front. But yeah, I've got to really give it to Tom Ely and Toby Davis and all that lot back at THR for spotting these low wings and getting the setup right. It definitely helped this weekend, so big thanks to them. But yeah,
like rocket ships in a straight line. I mean, I'd be watching 2 people fighting each other, and then all of a sudden you just come flying through the middle. Like, what the heck?
yeah. I'm quite surprised other people didn't spot it, but we managed to make the low drag work in the corners. It is quite difficult, but we made it work in the end, and yeah, it's a pretty good round. Looking forward to Monaco. That's going to be like the complete opposite of this one.
Absolutely. Still a straight circuit, but a very different one. Okay, congratulations on your 2 podiums today, and good luck in the future.
Thank you very much.
No problem whatsoever. Okie dokie. We've got a few. Okay, right. I'm gonna have to disappoint a few people once again. I always have to do this. Right. Let's talk to our winning team boss from race 1. Toby Davis. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Moritz got you a victory. You must be pretty good too.
Yeah, he should be pretty good. He had a bit of a miserable time in race 2, but that is somehow how it goes. So, as I keep saying, it's a long season, and there will be twists and turns. But very, very nice result for us in race 1, 1-3, and potentially, I think we had the fastest car here again. So we got to just keep pushing on.
How do you feel about race 2 there? Because we saw, that slightly controversial incident and then the extremely close finish as well. Must leave you with a bittersweet feeling?
Yes, I think considering how much hard work went into the setup with Tom Ely, putting so much hard work behind the scenes to make that work for us, we felt we had a really good race 2 car, and we had, obviously Moritz was involved in an incident, and then of course I think Tom feels, well, at least internally, would feel that he had the win stolen from him. So very disappointed from that point of view. But as I say, it is a long season, and we always look forwards, not back. So whilst I think it's disappointing not to have 2 race wins, that's just being greedy, really.
Fair enough. Well, still a very good job today. And your cars were so fast there, so you must have done a lot of work with the setup. How much work did you do?
Well, Tom spent a long time with our drivers. Tom Ely spent a long time with our drivers working out what was going to be the best course of action, and we came up with the idea that because the track is so balanced, you can run pretty much whatever wing you like and end up with pretty similar lap times. So we came up with the idea of having a really fast car in a straight line here, and it really worked. And actually, to be honest, the boys drove it really, really well as well. So I'm really proud of my team. I'm really proud of Moritz and Tom Stevens and Tom Ely, and we're really really in a good place right now. So I'm feeling confident, shall I say?
So you should be. Congratulations, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thank you.
And finally, now I am going to have to, again, disappoint a few people, but it would only be fair to speak to our other winning team boss today, Carter McCorman. I believe this is the first time I've interviewed you in a GPVWC broadcast room. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. My goodness, it's been a long time since I've spoken to you, so we should definitely do a proper catch-up someday soon.
For sure.
But Jake Danahan just got you a victory. How do you feel?
I'm very happy that Jake managed to win that. It was such a close race all throughout, and happy we're able to get the win there.
Absolutely, little bit. I don't want to say controversial, but I don't know. Okay. So what happened with Darius? Let's just say it.
It's pretty obvious what happened. He lost the car, and he tried to stay out of the way as best as possible. But given it was a blind corner, obviously reversing was not an option. That would have killed Tom and Jake at the same time. It's just an unfortunate situation that, unfortunate for Tom. Because he had phenomenal pace. That was clear.
I agree, but we had to talk about that because it was a real talking point from that race. Okay. So Jake and Adrian, they both had Darius, sorry. they both had a very similar problem today. They were extremely quick, but not in the places that mattered. Are you going to be taking a look at how you go about making your setups in the future?
Oh, yeah. So we loaded into the practice session, like just pre-race, and noticed that everybody else had very, very good top speed, which is something we were lacking on the setup because the car felt so much better, and it was overall like per lap quicker using the higher downforce. You were able to gain so much time through that second sector, the first corner as well. You're able to carry more speed, but on the straight you were a sitting duck. And when we saw that, we kind of had a bit of a panic looking at that top speed, and I started right away. I hopped into single player and tried to test some things to try and get a lower downforce setup ready. But the first race, it wasn't possible, so we just ran with what we had, tried to make the best of it. And then for race 2, Jake managed to test one of my beautiful setups that I made. He tested in warm up, found it to be mediocre, and decided to run with it just so we had a bit higher top speed.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on your victory and your decent haul of points today. Good job.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. So that was Carter McColeman, and like I said, sorry to everyone that I didn't get to interview today. I'm only really supposed to do 3 or 4 interviews, but I did 5. So I guess I tried to please everyone, but you can't. Anyway, thank you all for watching today, and I hope you all enjoyed this couple of races. I know the first one didn't exactly end in the best way, although we got a full race for race 2, and that is honestly quite a good note to end on. So thank you all very much, and also to everyone that I interviewed today. Always good to speak to you guys, and we will see you in 2 weeks time for the next FS1 race, but you can also get some more GPVWC action next week with Super Lights on Tuesday and Super League, the main Grand Prix, on the Thursday. Good night, and we'll see you then.